In this movie, we'll talk about the preferences that we can use to set up Encore CS4 before we begin our DVD or Blu-ray project. So on the Mac, let's go to the Encore menu or the Edit menu on a PC and choose Preferences General. And this will bring up a preference dialog similar to what we see in other Adobe applications, and all the controls work in the same way. So to start with, we have General Preferences, and the first thing we'll do is choose our default television standard. That is, we're going to choose which standard we're targeting with our Blu-ray or DVD disc. For example, if we're targeting players in North America, Japan, South Korea, and even parts of South America, we're going to use NTSC. For Europe, Africa, and other parts of Asia, we're going to use PAL, and we'll talk more about both of these standards in the next chapter. Playback quality refers to the quality of video as you're looking at it through Encore when you're evaluating your project. And I'll make a quick sidetrack here and say that you'll definitely want to pay attention to the system requirements. If I jump to Safari here, I have those requirements open, and you'll note it says Premiere Pro, and that's because Encore is bundled with Premiere Pro, so they have the same requirements. Now you'll notice there are some pretty stiff requirements here in terms of fast processor speed, multi-core processors, newer operating systems, and RAM. And generally, I'm going to recommend that you go above these requirements if you possibly can when you're using Encore. There are certain parts of the Encore workflow that are very, very hardware intensive, and they can really slow things down if you try to grind it out with a little bit older computer. So definitely pay attention to that and make sure you're set up and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the appearance area here. And we have some options for the user interface. We have a brightness slider where if we click and drag it, the user interface gets brighter or darker depending on your preference and how you like to work in these types of applications. Generally, I go for a slightly darker gray. We also have some options that we'll talk about a little bit later for how we're viewing certain parts of content, choosing audio and video output devices, choosing the locations where certain types of media, such as library content, and we'll talk a lot about the library panel in a little bit, where those things are stored, how certain menu operations are handled, and we'll come back to this in a couple of chapters, how we're previewing things, region codes, something you might be familiar with if you have DVD player issues where people are giving you discs from other parts of the world and they're not working right. You may have run into region code problems. So these are things we can look at here, and also some timeline options when we're editing our timeline media. So this basically is the breakdown of preferences, and you'll want to run through these at the start of each project.